Hey, welcome back to Mayhem with Maverick, brought to you by Mayhem Studios LLC. April 1st, April Fool's Day. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about that. What I am going to talk about today is happy birthday to the United States Navy Chief Petty Officers. That's right, April 1st, 1893, the rank of Chief Petty Officer, pay grade E7, was created. Now, that's a big thing. If you're not in the Navy or you're freshly new in the Navy and you truly don't understand what's going on and why it's so important, it's 132 years of Deckplate leadership. The E7 Chief Petty Officer rank is so important to the Navy. And then the E8 Senior Chief, E9 Master Chief came later down the line in 1958. But the Chiefs, and when we say the Chiefs, it's a generic term for all three ranks: Chief, Senior Chief, Master Chief. What's great and important about these ranks is we are the Deckplate leaders. We are the experts of the rate that we are assigned, whether it's when I was an electronic technician or when I was a Master at Arms. We are the experts. We're the ones that the junior personnel are supposed to come to when they're not sure, if they're stumbling or anything like that. And also when the officers have questions, they come to us. That's why the chiefs wear the same uniform as officers. We wear the khakis. We wear the choker whites. We wear the dress blue suit looking uniform. We are the people that keep everything going. Now, people may not want to admit that. You know, obviously the officers don't like to admit that. The officers want to say, we run the Navy, but I'm telling you right now that without the Chief Petty Officer ranks, the officers would struggle. Okay? There's some great parts about being a chief that if you're not in the Navy, you wouldn't understand. And other branches understand this. I mean, you meet a gunny, well, he knows what a Navy chief does and what a Navy chief can get accomplished. You know, and now when I was a young sailor and I was an ET, I really didn't understand the concept. And my chief, honestly, was a piece of shit. He was not a good chief. And there are those out there. But I'm going to tell you, to all the junior personnel that are watching, they go, oh, my chief sucks. Listen, for every bad chief, there's thousands of great chiefs out there that will break their back to help you. And that's part of our job. One of the things that I loved about being a chief was mentoring younger sailors, helping them achieve their goals in their career. Because my ETC, who was a piece of shit, didn't do any of that. It wasn't until I met someone outside my rate that saw potential in me and helped me accomplish goals. And then on top of that, a gunnery sergeant from the Marine Corps also pushed from behind and helped me succeed. And that's why anybody who knows me knows that when I was a chief and a senior chief, I did everything I could to help my sailors out. And I did everything I could to protect my sailors, because the chiefs that made me who I am today were those kind of chiefs. Great senior chiefs, great master chiefs. And then I took from those bad chiefs and realized this is not what I'm going to do. I'm going to set my sailors up for success as much as I can within the rules and regulations and without screwing anybody else and stabbing anybody in the back. That was probably my favorite part of being a chief. One of my other favorite parts of being a chief is we carry on the traditions of the Navy, right? We are the guardian of the traditions. We keep the traditions going. And what I mean is, I'm not talking about all the stuff from back in the day and the hazing and, cat of nine tails whipping people. What I'm talking about traditions is stuff that links us to the past sailors. You know, when you walk on a warship or you walk on the USS Constitution, right, as a sailor today, you're connecting yourself with those sailors back in history. It doesn't matter if you're a petty officer on a nuclear submarine. You're still linked back to that deck seaman that worked on a wooden ship, raising sails and mopping decks. The traditions that we go through, simple traditions and honors and ceremonies, our retirement ceremonies, stuff like that. Those kind of traditions make what the Navy is very, very important. And every branch has their own traditions. The Army, the Marine Corps, Coast Guard, and I'm not here to talk about them. So when I start talking about all our stuff, I'm not denouncing all the other branches. I'm just showing you the passion I have for the branch that I served. I have much respect for my brother in arms in all the other branches, but we're talking about the Navy and what the Chiefs are. And we're very unique. If you look at the Marine Corps and you look at the Army and you look at the Air Force, E1 through E9 all wear the same uniform. But we're different because the Chiefs are that block in between our junior enlisted and our officers. And it's our job to make sure that that goes smoothly. It's a unique position, and it's not easy. You reach the rank of E6, you're a first-class petty officer, and you think, I know everything, I got it done, I'm the LPO, I'm in charge of the unit, da-da-da-da. And then you hit that day, congratulations, shipmate, you made chief. And now it's a 2.5-month process of going through training and going through indoctrination and going through all this stuff where we, as the mess, the chief's mess, are now bringing you in and teaching you stuff. And we're teaching you how to be a chief petty officer. Now, what people nowadays, I'm starting to notice, is they think us retirees have nothing to offer to new chiefs. And there can be sometimes there can be some animosity between the retirees and the current chiefs and the new chiefs coming up. But I'm going to explain something to you. Part of the mess, tradition, listen, the SOPs can change, the chain of command can change, rules can change, rates can change, but leading men and women, which that's our job, that's what we're charged with, leading our sailors, doesn't change. The way you lead men and women doesn't change. And that's what's great about the Chiefs Mess. In 30 years, it's not going to change on how you lead them. The rules may change. The SOPs may change. The colors of the ship could be pink. The whole Navy could change, but leading men and women doesn't change. Mentoring young sailors doesn't change. And believe it or not, the Chiefs Mess is also charged with mentoring those junior officers, those 01, 02, 03s, ensign, lieutenant JGs, and lieutenants. Help mentoring them. One, to trust the mess and to trust the enlisted to do their job and not to interfere because they are paperwork people. And there's nothing, I'm not talking shit against those officers, but they're paperwork. Unless you're an LDO or a warrant officer. We're not going to get into that. Regular naval officers, they're there for paperwork, okay? The enlisted are the ones doing the work and the job. So I just want to explain that to people because sometimes, people at my police department don't understand. There's one of my favorite guys at the police department. He was a Marine. Every time he saw me, he'd go, "Hey, senior, how you doing?" And guys would look at him like he was crazy. He knew what a senior chief in the Navy meant. And so he showed the respect. We're both out of the military, but he still showed me that respect. I got a guy that I work with right now. He was a second-class petty officer. He still calls me senior when he walks past me at the airport. It's just a respect thing. And it's nice to hear. But the chiefs are very important to the Navy. And I'm going to show you how important it is, all right? So Admiral Halsey, one of the most famous admirals in United States history. This is a quote from him, right? He was talking to somebody about a chief that was, I think he was retiring or something. I don't know the whole story, right? But he was talking to a person. This is what he said. "That man was my chief when I was an ensign, and no one before or after taught me as much about ships or men as he did. You civilians don't understand. You go down to Long Beach and you see those battleships sitting there, and you think they float on water. You're wrong. They are carried to the sea on the backs of chief petty officers." That's what Admiral Halsey believed about the chiefs. And that's why we talk so much about we're the backbone. We're the glue that holds the Navy together. We have all kinds of sayings. Ask the chief. Why is that saying so popular? Because if you're a junior enlisted and you can't figure something out, your pay's screwed up, your uniform screwed up, something, whatever the question is that you can't seem to get that answer for, ask the chief is the answer. You go to your chief. You say, "Chief, I have a problem." And most chiefs like me will jump to help you. Now, sometimes it may be, "Shipmate, give me a second. I have this right now. I will get to you as soon as I can," but we will help you. Now, if you don't have a chief that does that, if your LCPO or your chief isn't doing that, that's okay. Go to another chief. Your chief The mentor chief that you want to emulate, be like, doesn't have to be the chief you work for. That's what's great. Most of my mentor chiefs for a long time as a junior sailor were not the chiefs I worked for. They were guys outside the rate. An aviation boatswain mate. There was a BM. There was an FC. I mean, great men that they looked at being a chief and wearing those anchors as they helped every sailor, not just their sailors in their division or in their unit. Chiefs are there for every sailor. I don't care if I'm a master arm senior chief, right? I ran a gun range. I ran security departments. But if I had a YN come to me asking me for help, I'd lay down a line and help them. I may not know specific stuff within your rate to help you, but I know that I have a fellow chief or a fellow brother and sister that can help, and I'll go to them. So for those junior sailors out there that are really like, oh, it's changed, senior, it's changed. It still hasn't changed. I go to I still participate in the mess over at MacDill Air Force Base, and that chief's mess and that association has some of the best master chiefs, senior chiefs, and chiefs that I've ever met in my entire career. SOCOM, CENTCOM, JTF, NOS, Tampa. I mean, there's so many commands over there, I can't remember them all. Some of the best people I've ever worked with, some of the best people I've mentored and watched surpass me. Guys that I pinned, made chief, and are now master chiefs and are doing great things in the Navy. So just because your chief's not helping you, go to another chief and they'll help you. I promise you. You'll find the chief that will mentor you and help you gain those goals. Now, sometimes your goals are unreachable. And sometimes that's our job to tell you, okay, I know you want to be a Navy SEAL, but you're 5'2" and 25 pounds. We also use logic and realism here. And sometimes realism hurts. I've told many sailors what they were looking for was not attainable. And that sucks. And as a chief, it sucks because you want to help succeed. But other than that, I just wanted to wish all my brothers and sisters who wear those anchors, whether it's chief, senior chief, or master chief, happy freaking birthday. Keep plugging along, keep running those deck plates, and keep taking care of your sailors. And to those future chiefs, those junior sailors that are waiting to pin those anchors on, keep working hard and become part of the mess. Don't become part of the problem, become part of the solution. You got bad chiefs that you worked for, then get those anchors on and fix it like I did. Change the way the mess looks at it. Change the way the junior sailors look at it. And for that, folks, I'm out. See you next time.